All right. Hey, guys, and welcome back to the Pop Podcast. My voice is a little raspy. I don't know what that is about. I am so happy to be back another week, another Monday. And as we are walking right into the holiday season, I thought it would be a perfect time to welcome back Hannah, who did an episode a few months back on just overall health and intuitive eating. And today I really wanted her and I to focus on health around the holidays. I think it's one of those topics that can be taboo. A lot of people have a lot of opinions on it. There's a lot of extremes people go to. And so I thought, why not have her on? And then we're going to take that conversation right into New Year's goals. I know it's right around this time of year that people start to think about that and put in their intentions for the new year. So, welcome back, Hannah. Say hello. I know I love Hannah. She has so much good insight, and the feedback after her last episode was awesome. Everyone could tell that she was so passionate about it. So I wanted to have her back on. So, my first question to you, as a nutrition and someone that coaches people all day, every day for a living, going into the holidays, are there certain things that you recommend to the people that you are coaching on mental management around eating on Thanksgiving, or just little health tips to not feel guilty and to b stay on track and not have those feelings of regret or guilt around eating? Stress is one of those, and this is something that I deal with a lot, and I feel like it's hard to manage. And I know some people are either the type that stressed eat and they're eating all of this food and consuming like an over amount of calories, or there's people, which I feel like I fall into this category of, it's the opposite. I feel like my hunger suppresses at times if I'm like super stressed out, which I've started to notice in myself. And either extreme obviously isn't good. I just feel like I've even had conversations recently of people who are out there trying to lose weight and they're cutting out all these carbs or doing this, and it feels like people just go to extremes, and then you get around the holidays and then there's that, binge eating of, I'm gonna eat the whole pie, or I'm gonna eat the, or whatever it is. And again, not saying that you shouldn't indulge, but I just think there's a lot of negative thoughts that come into our mind when it's around that time of year. So I think it's good just to kind of be aware of that. And are there tangible things that you advise your clients when it comes to stress? Is it a just relaxing, or what would you advise for people out there listening? Yeah, exactly. The how is the hard part. Yeah, tangible. Yeah, why don't you clarify those real quick too for me? Mhm. I think just as humans, and it's funny that you gave like an animal reference and then how they just shake it off. I think it's very easy to overthink these types of things and overthink one day out of 365. And I know, the holidays last more than one day, so I'm oversimplifying it, but I just feel like there's this mindset, and I think a lot of it has to do with like fear and stress too. You're around family, what questions, like I think there's a lot of external things that go into it. But I do just want to encourage people out there, if those are things that you're feeling, obviously do what Hannah just said. But I think it's important to not feel guilty about whatever you're indulging in, and just realizing even if you get off of track for one day, it's one day out of however much, or it's even one meal. If you break it down, how many meals have you had this year? So it's not associating a negative mindset to whatever that action is, and just letting yourself really decompress for that. I like that. I just think we're, as human beings, we overthink, which then causes more stress on top of that, when in reality it's like breathe and just let go. Yeah, I know. I love that. And I think stress, that's one of, it's harder. Everyone handles stress differently, and everyone has different ways and avenues that they release stress. So I think that's hard. So moving kind of to, as we get into the end of the year around the holidays, is there any other pieces of advice that you would give people that are either align more with someone that when they get stressed out they're overeating and how to not feel guilty, or maybe people on the other end outside of what you just said that's more of like on a nutrition base? Mhm. Exactly. Yeah. I don't, what was it? I'm trying to think. Okay, well, obviously we can cut this part out. I think I said what was the, but like other piece of advice for people, and then moving into the holidays. Then I forget. I think it was just like health specific, but I feel like you kind of touched on that. Mhm. And this is going to take us right into one of my favorite and probably most passionate things to talk about. And it was actually a request from a listener that was like, you need to do an episode on New Year's goals and attainable versus not attainable. I think there is a huge gap between those who have a, I want to lose 15 pounds, so I'm not eating any carbs, not in like a condescending way, but within 10 days they've fallen off the tracks and then the whole year is blown. I'm someone that to my core and so passionate about setting goals that are attainable. Even if you mess up 6 months in, it's not the end of the world. Like make a goal and an intention is something that you can actually abide by, that's really going to a improve your confidence, or kind of goes back to what Hannah just said of what's your why. So my question to you is, we're going to do the New Year's goals health specific obviously. What is your advice to your clients, whether they come on board in January and have these big goals? How do you guide them and coach them through attainable versus not attainable, and give examples if you have any? Hmm. Yeah. There's no structure. Hmm. Yeah. And I'm all for, I love when I have friends that come to me and they've got to the place where they're self-aware enough they're self-aware enough to recognize where they are and where they're unhappy and they want to make that switch. I just feel like we have a very like head first, we're diving straight into the deep end approach. I think it's just how we are as a culture. But then when you really peel it back, it's like you're going from you're changing a lifestyle is really what you're doing. If you're losing 50 pounds, that is a significant amount of weight. I'm not saying that's a bad goal, or for everyone out there listening, whatever your goal is, and I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about this now. I think there's a way to make that realistic. I just think it really comes down to like the daily being consistent, which we talk about in every single episode. The key to success is consistency. But I just feel like we have this like head first approach into it. And then when you actually peel back the layers, it's like you don't enjoy doing a HIIT workout. You love sugar. You're taking away everything that you love. And then why would you want to work towards a goal? Should be something like for me when I first got into my health, and you probably could attest to this, it was something that we enjoyed doing. Like I felt better when I started doing this. I was happier. I had more energy. You want to do things that are going to give you that happiness. So I feel like this goal should be like, I want to lose 50 pounds because I want to look great. Great. Hannah and I both want you to be there, but you can't dive headfirst into the deep end and be like, I'm getting rid of everything in my life because you're not going to be happy. I'm sure you see that too. Yeah. Mhm. That's my next question is we have a goal, and I when people change it, they pivot or they fail, they stop. There's this sense of I failed, why would I keep trying? Happens to every single person out there. You fail in your daily job probably often. You fail, and we I talk about this, it's such a common theme of you just have to keep going. What advice would you give for people out there? Maybe they're resetting the same goal. Maybe it's to lose weight or just to overall be healthier. They failed, they've given up. What advice would you give for them to A, get back on track, and B, if you change and pivot, that change and pivot could set you up for more success down the line? Mhm. Mhm. We often focus on what we didn't do instead of focusing on what we did do. And I do tell, I have friends, I had this conversation yesterday at work of they'll have like one slip up with something like they were trying to do, they try and want to eat this and then they went out to dinner and they had pizza and then they just throw it. I'm like, even if you told yourself you were going to work out 4 days a week, but in reality you could only work out 3 days a week, that 3 days a week is better than no days a week. So I think it's just giving yourself credit for even if it's not to the extreme. I know, 50% is technically a failure in some things, but I do think if you're doing, if you're 75% there, that's better than where you started at 0%. I think that's a win in my book. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, we oftentimes push agendas. I even some feel when I get super passionate about this topic, and I feel like people come to me for advice just because I've encompassed a lot of healthy things. I eat healthy 80 to 90% of the time. It's just like in my, I don't know, I just it's something that I do every single day. So I don't think twice about it. When people come to me and they ask these questions, I oftentimes I'm like, why are you doing keto? That doesn't work. Or why are you doing this? And I'm quick to tell them why it's not working, even though I'm not sitting there and asking them all these questions. But every time I feel like it's like, oh, I tried this for a week and then I failed. I'm like, yeah, because you're taking an extreme and you're trying to bring it into your lifestyle. And extremes in any aspect, I think, they're just hard to be consistent at because it is an extremes. Exactly. And I want to encourage people. I think it's super important when you're going and making these intentions or you're going and signing up at a gym. I know gym memberships go straight up in January and then March the trend falls off. And I, don't want any of the listeners out there to be that population that drops off in March. And even if that is something that happens to you, it's happened before. I mean, it is a new year. I think you should, start your resolution tomorrow. But if you're one of those that likes January 1st, Hannah, do you have specific goals that you encourage your clients or for again people out there listening, tying this back into the audience that you like that people set? I know again it's everyone is different, but are there certain things that you're like, I really like this type of goal and this type of goal usually doesn't work with my audience? Mhm. Yeah, I love that. I just think I really like to encourage people. I feel like health is one of those things that really truly is at the bottom of everything else. I'd say it's like the nucleus of everything. Like when you're feeling yourself good things, you start to feel good, you're more productive. It really is. And I had this conversation with one of my VPs too. He got super healthy, got rid of alcohol because it just wasn't resonating with him. And he's like, I'm more productive, I give better speeches, all this type of stuff. And I just started laughing because I was like, I could have told you all of this, but it's just funny when people are on the other side of it and they look back and they didn't even realize how much more they could give to the people around them by just doing these little making these little changes. I think one of the biggest excuses, I'm sure you hear this, is time. Advice for people out there who are giving themselves the excuse of time, or maybe they are strapped and they're like, hey, I'm trying to get to this goal. What are a few little things that I could do? Or another two-part question, if it's just an excuse of time, how you overcome that and coach people through it. Okay. Love a journal. Mm-hmm. Oh, I said, yeah, time is the biggest excuse. So, are there tangible, like, do you give pieces of advice for people that it's time? Are there certain nutrition tips that you give them? If it's like a CEO or someone out there listening that's super, just literally doesn't have the time, it's not social media. Mm. Same. It's it's hard, and the hardest part about it is consistency, and that's where people fall off. And I think the slippery slope is a phrase for a reason. They start going down, and then it really just is a slippery slope. And then before you know it, it's we're throwing in the towel. It's this and this, and there's such a negative connotation around it. So I just want to encourage people, if you do have a goal or if this is something that you're thinking about, Hannah is going to give us a discount holiday gift if you have people out there that are that want to get coaching, or people that you want to recommend. Feel free to DM me, or you could just DM her. I'll put everything in the link show notes as well. So I just want to encourage people out there, if this is something that's been on your mind for a while, or you're very goal oriented. I know I am. I think there's a lot of people out there that have these goals. It's just, how do I get there? So reach out to Hannah, reach out to me, whatever. We are here to help. And as we begin to wrap up, is there anything else that you want to talk about? Mm. Yeah, I love that. And set those goals. I don't know. I love a good goal. I know I've said this a million times. I just think there's so much for it, and your health is should be one of those top priorities. I think it's something that a lot of us take for granted. It's something that we don't make time for. When at the end of the day, it really is one of those things that is so important. And when you're healthy, things are great. When you're not, you're like, hey, that was the wake up call that I needed. So get outside if you're in the warm weather, even if you're in the cold. I mean, a little Thanksgiving run. I know there's a lot of people. That's me. Are you the type of person that goes out? Or are you the type of person that runs? I'm the type of person that runs on, on Thanksgiving. So I am going to turn it over to Hannah. She is going to explain the discount that she is going to give each and every one of you listeners. Again, you can reach out to either one of us, but she'll explain it a little bit more before we wrap everything up. Yeah. So, all of you out there, if this is something that's been on your mind, whether it's nutrition, whether it's maybe our previous episode, we touched a little bit on fertility. She does a lot. I text her all the time and ask for advice. She's been on the podcast twice. So she has so much insight. And I hope this could be a great gift if you have a family member or maybe even a friend that has been talking with you about it. When she told me about this, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's such a good idea. There's a few people of mine that I've even thought about. So I appreciate you coming on, Hannah. And last question, as always, is what are you grateful for? She's focusing on the good and sleep deprivation.